Niue Legislative Assembly is about to have their first assembly meeting for the year tomorrow morning, and much hype will be focused on the new general election date for the island. According to Premier Honourable Toke Talangi, the government will advise when Parliament will dissolve.
I advise them that according to the Constitution, I think the 7th of March is the date that has been agreed by everybody. Is 9 months, which allows us to then determine whether we can call an election. And elections can be called at any time, according to the date I nominate, according to the provisions in the Constitution. It cannot be held 28 days after the Parliament is dissolved, or more than 6 weeks after Parliament is dissolved. So it's within the time frame. There's a 2-week time frame we can use for that thing. 2 weeks in the sense that it can't be held 28 days. It can't be held within 28 days, but it cannot be held after 6 weeks. So you figure it out. It's not; these things are not difficult to calculate, but that's what we discussed with Porkies yesterday, and I advise them that in fact I will make a decision in March, certainly after the date, which indicates the anniversary of 2 years, 9 months.
That is Honourable Toke Talangi. Keeping in par with government aspirations for development, the Air New Zealand Services and other developmental areas has been finalised last week in New Zealand. According to Premier Talangi, not only is the air service agreement finalised, so are other essential services.
I think the most important thing for people is the assurance now that we've signed an air service agreement with Air New Zealand. We'll continue services using the A320 that we have at the present moment. I think that's the most important thing, and that was what we were concerned about. Look, we made some provisions for underwrites in case the service didn't do as well as it should, but that's the sort of risk that I'm prepared to accept as part of the business model that we put in place to ensure that, in fact, we develop our tourism industry here. There are 4 things in tourism that we need to put in place to ensure that we have a successful, if you like, tourism industry, if we do all of these things well. The first one is the air service agreement. That's being done. The second one is accommodation, and that's in the process of being finalised at the present moment for the motorway to be expanded and renovated and so on. And the third is with respect to promotions marketing. There is a much bigger budget now with tourism than they had before, so we should be able to get more people to come up here. The fourth, of course, is with respect to other services and businesses that we can develop here as a consequence of increased numbers. That's really the if you like, the overall picture that I have with respect to how we're going to develop our tourism. If we're successful in all of those particular areas, and the air service generally is on a weekly basis, and if we're successful in increasing the total numbers from what we have at the present moment, which is approximately 5,000, to say 6, 7, 8,000 people coming through, then I believe that in fact the economy will grow as a consequence of that, and all the businesses that are struggling at the present moment will do better. It'll also give us an opportunity to then realistically ask some of the public servants whether they're interested in going into the private sector. Now, you're a caterer, you do as part of your seagulling. And you know that, in fact, if you had an opportunity to provide catering every night of the week, then you'd possibly look at the possibilities of going and setting up a little restaurant for yourself, because you know that, in fact, it could be successful because people will come and use it. So that's a very good example, the sort of things we're looking at. There are tours, there are other things that we can do to assist businesses help improve their capacity to be able to provide services for the people when they come. I mean, after all, air services, people coming in, promotions, marketing, successful. If they come here and we're not able to take the money off them, then we've in fact not been very successful at all. The only other thing that I'd like to add is that we're looking at somebody coming up this weekend to establish 4 ATMs or 3 ATMs machines, so that people can have easier access to money when they come here, and people here can have easier access to credit, and therefore hopefully it may make things a lot easier for us to help the tourists spend their money.
Other developments for government is the 40-room hotel by the Chinese envisaged for the near future. A trip to the other side of the world for one doctor from the Philippines has proved positive, arriving on the island as a locum just to receive a better proposal to the position of Chief Medical Officer for the Health Department. After nearly 1 year of the last CMO's departure, the department has finally identified a highly sought-after surgeon to head the department, Dr. Inocencio Obala, Jr. We caught up with Dr. Obalo Jr. today for an interview. Even though he experienced challenges originally, Dr. Obalo is hoping for better strategies for the hospital.
I thought that before I came here, it would be similar to other island countries, Commonwealth countries. But then, when I arrived here, firstly, it was a deafening silence when I came, and I couldn't hear anything. So I said, that was a shock to me. Then after a while, I get used to it, and then I started working here as a locum. Well, I expect to do more challenge, actually, to do more things here, despite the fact that the population is low. But the anxiety and the thought that there might be some things that I have to do that are expected of me is something that I have to worry about. I mean, and to think about, not necessarily worry, but yes, it is a challenge indeed. As I've discussed with some of the officials here in the health department, I think the initial and the foremost responsibility that I have is to improve the surgical services, wherein I am a trained surgeon. And secondly, the administrative part, which is more on human resource development. As you said, there are only a few doctors and a few nurses. But then, if you're going to have a system or a strategy that would make this small group a working core group to be efficient, and I think we would be able to deliver what people would expect from us.
Now, you talk about some of the strategies that you're hoping to implement here anyway, and looking at your experiences that you've had in the Pacific Island, how difficult do you think that will be?
Well, it is always difficult. Even the World Health Organization would say it's really difficult. Foremost is the retention of human resources. There are a lot of factors, and I will be open to say it since it has been a long written document by the World Health Organization, that there are three major reasons why you have almost always have difficulty getting human resources, especially in the health department. Mostly it's most of the remuneration. That's number one. Two are the opportunities for education and other training, and of course the environment. When I say environment, it doesn't mean that Niue is not a beautiful place. What I mean is the facility that you have and the complementary human resource specialty or expertise that is available. Even if you have the expertise and you don't have the facility, it will have some sort of breakdown along the way. So that poses a challenge to me. And if the government is willing, as I am willing also to do the job that they are offering me, then I will take the challenge.
Now, what are some of the focus areas? I mean, obviously you're a surgeon. You have experience in that field. What is one of the main focus that you have for the hospital? I mean, we've had so many challenges. We don't have enough resources. We don't have the facility to accommodate some of the things that happen here on the island. What is your focus?
Yeah. Well, firstly, maybe is to establish and be able to have the confidence from the public that the local doctors are not just doctors. They are educated and trained doctors. And I want that skills of them to be honed and trained so that in the long run, you won't need any expertise, any expat coming here to your country. I mean, if we are able to to develop that resources and manage it well with very good support from the government, I don't see any reason why we should not be able to do that. Now, as far as clinical services is concerned, of course, we are trying to get some protocols, develop some and formulate some protocols so that even if a new doctor is, or even anybody who comes here would have a standard medical best practice technique that they can use by looking at that protocols accepted by mostly New Zealand, Australia, and even America, so that when they come, we have a common ground to work on.
That is Dr. Obalo Jr. He is expected to depart the island next week and will return in March. The village of Makifu celebrated their new church minister Reverend Holot Affair with many people on the island on Saturday. As with many traditional Niuean events, food was plentiful. Even Makifu village representatives from New Zealand made the 3.5-hour flight on Friday to celebrate with their relatives in welcoming church minister Tafea and his family. However, most of the invitees saw most church ministers attend and government ministers were also represented. To end our news bulletin for tonight, a celebration of all sorts happened at the commercial centre and wharf area this morning as hordes of tourists embarked on our tiny shores from the biggest passenger cruise boat to grace our shores. The MV Amsterdam arrived this morning, with visitors arriving on shore to the delight of the locals as the commercial centre started to increase the population of the island for a few hours. We spoke to a few visitors who said Niue is a surprise as they didn't think the landmass was that big, but was taken aback when the island came into view. According to the Niue Tourism Office, the visitors did manage to purchase a few goods and souvenirs, and approximately 500 to 600 people came ashore. They also agreed with that a positive feedback was acknowledged regarding the facilitation of the arrival. The cruise boat that was scheduled to leave the island at 1 p.m. left at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon. Hana ni ado to the wala dala tutupu ke la ta ia mua whiawhinei no no wha mai mawhala. That's our news bulletin for tonight. Good evening.